Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down the forces that drive pretty much every purchase you make. Yeah, we're talking about the hidden economic rules behind every single thing we buy. Let me start by asking you a really simple question. Have you ever wanted something you just couldn't afford? I think we've all been there. And that feeling, that's the key to understanding one of the most fundamental concepts in all of economics. The crucial difference between just wanting something and what economists call demand. So here's the thing. In the world of economics, just wanting something, it's not enough. For that desire to become what we call demand, you need two other things to back it up. You have to be willing to actually open your wallet, and you need the ability to pay for it. So dreaming about a new car is just a wish. But you, with the cash and the intent, walking into that dealership, now that's creating demand. Okay, so we've got a handle on what demand is. Now, how does it actually behave out in the wild? Well, it turns out it's all governed by one core principle. It all comes down to this super simple inverse relationship, something you've literally felt your entire life. When something's on sale, we tend to buy more of it, and when the price goes up, we buy less. It's intuitive, right? This is the absolute bedrock of how we all behave as consumers. So check this out. Economists track this relationship using a chart called a demand schedule. This table here shows exactly how much of a product one person will buy at different prices. See? When the price is 10, they'll only buy 1 kilogram. But look what happens when the price drops all the way down to 2. Suddenly, their demand jumps to 5 kilograms. And when you take that data from the schedule and plot it on a graph, boom, you get what's called a demand curve. And because of that inverse relationship we just talked about, price goes up, demand goes down, it almost always slopes downward, just like this. It's a picture of that exact behavior. But what if I told you that sometimes this fundamental law just breaks? There are these really rare, weird situations where all the rules we just learned seem to go right out the window. Yeah, take a look at this. It's a demand curve that slopes upwards. Now that should be impossible, right? It means that as the price of something goes up, people actually buy more of it. How on earth does that happen? Well, it's a fascinating thing called Giffin's paradox. It happens with certain low-quality goods, what economists call inferior goods. So imagine bread is the absolute cheapest food you can buy. If the price of bread suddenly drops, you now have extra money left over. You feel a little richer. So instead of buying even more of that cheap bread, you use that new purchasing power to upgrade to something better, like meat. So a lower price actually led to lower demand for the cheap stuff. Crazy, right? All right, so we get it. Price changes, demand. But that leaves a huge unanswered question. By how much? I mean, knowing that a price drop will increase sales is one thing, but knowing if it will increase sales a little or a lot, that's a whole different ballgame. And to answer that, we need to move on to our next big concept, which builds right on top of everything we just learned. We need to talk about elasticity. The best way to think about it is like a rubber band. Seriously. Elasticity just tells us how much demand stretches when the price changes. If a tiny price change causes a massive change in how much people buy, we say that demand is really elastic. But if the price can swing wildly without really affecting demand, we call that inelastic. And it's not a one-size-fits-all thing either. There are actually 5 different degrees of this stretchiness, ranging from infinitely stretchy on one end to not stretchy at all on the other. So you've got these two wild extremes. On one end, perfectly elastic demand, which is mostly just a concept, a theory. But on the other end, you have perfectly inelastic demand, and this one is very, very real. Think about a life-saving medicine. If the price doubles or even triples, you still have to buy it. Your demand is totally insensitive to the price. Of course, most things we buy live somewhere in the middle. Think about stuff you absolutely need, like gasoline. Your demand is relatively inelastic, right? The price goes up, but you still got to get to work. But then think about luxuries, like a fancy new sports car. That demand is usually very elastic. Even a small sale could cause a huge rush of buyers. And then, sitting right in the middle, you have this perfect sweet spot called unitary elastic demand. This is where everything is perfectly balanced. A 10% drop in price leads to an exactly 10% increase in demand. It's a perfect one-to-one ratio. So, we've got all this theory, demand curves, paradoxes, elasticity. But why does any of it actually matter in the real world? Oh, it matters a lot. Understanding this stuff is key to making some of the biggest economic decisions out there. Okay, so how do people actually figure this stuff out? Well, there are a couple of main ways. You can get really precise and use the ratio method, which is a mathematical formula. Or you can use the much simpler total expenditure method. That one just asks a simple question. If we change the price, does the total amount of money people spend on this thing go up or down? And this right here is why it's so incredibly important. If you're running a business, understanding elasticity is how you find the perfect price to make the most money. And if you're the government, it's crucial for deciding what to tax. Slap a tax on an inelastic good like cigarettes, and you'll raise a lot of money. But try to tax a highly elastic good, and you might just cause demand to completely collapse. So, I'll leave you with this. Think about the last thing you bought. Was your demand for it elastic or inelastic? Was it a necessity you would have bought no matter the cost? Or was it a little luxury you only snagged because the price was right? See, understanding demand isn't just for economists. It's a tool for understanding the world of choices we all live in every single day.